Okay guys, the votes are in and Walter White seems to have won it for the Balenciaga challenge. So today we're going to start from basically scratch from Photoshop all the way into ZBrush, starting from a sphere. And as we wait, I'm just going to post the Discord to tell people that this is active. Okay guys, the votes are in and so I was actually really looking forward to doing the C3PO one because I thought it'd be a good mix of kind of like metals and organics, but it seems that the community has spoken and they definitely want to see this hench version of Walter White. There's a silver lining to it. I think like both of them didn't have hair, so in games you get this funny thing where you'll see a lot of bold characters and you often see characters with like baseball caps on. And the reason for that is that over the last couple of years in the games industry, it has been very difficult. So designers, art leads and concept artists would purposely put on like hats and things so the 3D artists wouldn't have to make the physical hair. So definitely out of ZBrush it's difficult. So we might have dodged a bullet on that one. Maybe the next few ones will have some more hair. Okay. Hi from Turkey, I discovered your channel and been binge watching your content. Yeah, hello. Good to hear it. Hopefully you've learnt some more things and more things to come as well. What video did you find initially? Let's get my ugly face out of the way. There we go. Are you a 3D artist or aspiring character artist? What's your initial trade? Or a student? So it's the same with the Harry Potter character. You just do a nice little cutout, so I can put that next to my screen in ZBrush, primarily to see what I'm making and sort of like align them up, make sure I've got proportions right. I'll also have it to this. I've got two screens. I've got one to the right here and then one to the left, and I basically just check references, but it's nice to, out the corner of my eye, just see the general proportions and stuff like that. So I'll export a PNG. So here we go. There's the last week's Harry Potter Balenciaga, so if you're interested in that, watch that live stream. It was very, very fun. Okay, just going to load in this. Quite a funny thing you'll see when I'm working on multiple projects, I actually change the emblem of the folder just so it's a little bit easier to find stuff. So I was working on a version of like these robotic twins, and I just put a star onto it. I think if you right click and then go into properties, you can change all like the icons and stuff. But we're on this one so far. Cool, so I'll just use Spotlight. So have you guys, for the people that are here so far, have you actually watched Breaking Bad? Do you know who this character is? Yeah, good. Glad to hear about you finding the cloth video on the channel. I'd done that a while ago. I didn't realise people would find it so useful, but it seems to have done quite popular. Okay, so with this, I just I double check whenever you bring in a reference. Just double check in spotlight projection. I have it hotkeyed over here or put off to my deck, but I believe it's in samples and then spotlight projection. So if you've got that selected, you won't be able to sculpt on the sphere that you have. Hey. So I basically start the characters in similar ways. Sometimes you can use a cut just to cut the side off. I use a very big trim brush, and that creates his the side of his head, kind of this area, and then I just basically use the move tool to bring everything out from there. With this Walter White character, he's got quite a squared off jaw in comparison, so I'm going to try and translate that over. Also, it's a hench character, so a lot of the theme of this is in his body as well, so I might do the shoulders and the neck as well, and maybe like a bit of cloth for the tank top. Ah, you also saw the hair sculpt. That's good. Yeah, I've got a load more videos actually coming on how to do the hair and the clothes. Even some better ways of doing it, like better workflows. So they're yet to come. Cool. So with this, I'm just basically trying to get a generalized shape. I'm not really focusing on any key landmarks just yet. Maybe just like flatness of the face and an indication of the jaw. Just want to get the masses done. For this guy, I'm going to put in a neck really early, and that's going to bring into proportion all the head and stuff, so it's something to compare it against, which is nice. Whenever you're putting in eyes, think about it being halfway in between the top of the head and the bottom of the chin. So that's a good place to start. Remember to do the tops and the bottoms and also the 3/4. When I'm teaching students, they obviously forget that because they're so used to looking at it from the front and the side. But a lot of the character actually comes from wrapping it around from the top. So you just want to bring parts of the side face backwards, a bit like this. And also taper the top of the brow. So it's got a nice cranium shape. So you're from Turkey. I know a little bit of Turkish. I can embarrass myself. So I think there's like a nursery rhyme. So it's mini mini bir kuş doğmuştu, pencereme konmuştu. Tell me if I butchered that. Strong characters, they usually have obviously the neck is built from muscles, so if they're well built or go to the gym, they're going to poke sometimes slightly above and outside of the head silhouettes. So it's going to be very important to align the jaw to the neck. His is aligned here. Obviously it's AI generated, so it's not realistic, but it's gone off some basic key metrics. So the neck's got two key primary muscles really. They don't show too much, but if you get this technique, so if you get something like a clay tubes and lead it from the back of the skull all the way down in this direction, and then sort of go over it again, that creates the first muscle, and then you can basically smooth it away into infinity. And then once you've got this this sort of landmark, you can start to position it. So obviously it tapers out and connects to sort of like the scapular area, and depending on the posture you can pull this back. That's going to connect to the shoulders. In between this area, sort of this area here, is a very negative space. You can probably feel it with your own fingers, and obviously you've got the cylinder of the throat on the front side, so you can try and incorporate a bit of that cylinder first, and then also potentially like an Adam's apple, and smooth it away. And then for this section, just sort of cave in there with the brush. And this is going to be all tenderness, like a tenderness and skinny area. So you get dam standard, then just direct it downwards to sort of give some nice information. But we'll come back to that later because we need the shoulders to do the neck properly. I want a bit lower resolution than that. Cool. So a couple of options here. We could either add some spheres for the shoulders and then sort of like Dynamesh them all together. If you're a bit more comfortable in ZBrush, you can just start to drag pieces off. That's how I usually do it. Or you can do a mix of the two, so you can append like a sphere and then use that as your target. So we can imagine that's going to be like a shoulder joint. So with this guy, it's going to be sort of there. Then you can get the rest of the clay and then sort of aim to wrap it around that. So that's useful if you've got some proportion measurements as well. Another one is if you've got BSH, is the snake hook, then you turn on Active Sculptress Pro whenever you drag things. And this is from the hair tutorial as well, for the person that mentioned it. But you can see that we can create geometry and we don't have to re-Dynamesh it. So this is very good for bringing out surfaces, right? And you can use that with any brush. So for example, if you want to bulk stuff up very broadly, you can zoom out, and you can also smooth to get rid of features. But I'm going to stick with snake hook, just so I've got some clay to work with. And approaching it from the top and like going down, it can sometimes be useful because when you're bringing out, say for example, I'm thinking about bringing out a pectoral here, it also gives me a free silhouette that I can work with, so I can shape this muscle before I start to introduce the rest of the anatomy. So for this anatomy, I'm not actually using any references, I'm just sort of going off memory, so it might not be accurate, but as long as it looks okay. And obviously we can adjust it afterwards. The main important feature is just getting all the parts in first and then refining it, so at the start it looks a bit strange, but it should be okay. Okay, let's check the chat. So what's everyone been up to today? Any projects you've been working on? Any issues so far? I have a long neck. I'm going to reduce that. What are your thoughts on Wacom with a screen versus without? So the Cintiq screen. Well, okay. So I actually used to have a screen Cintiq, and I used it for quite a while, and I didn't like it. I hated it. I actually went back to my really cheap 40 quid Wacom. Compared to that, it's just like holding my arm up for so long, especially when you're sculpting. I think it's really good for 2D because you've got to get those broad strokes that you can't really get or you can't simulate with a Wacom. But when it's to do with sculpting, if you think about it, your Wacom and all your movements happen in this sort of area in the center of the screen. And that's kind of evidence if you look at my Wacom, there's a bit of a yeah, you can definitely see it. You can see this rub mark. And that's because everything happens in that sort of area. So you don't really need this big screen to sort of throw your Wacom pen around. It looks cool, obviously, and it translates well to people thinking it's cool, but it's just not that functional for me anyway. Yeah, let's work on this head. And also, it's very expensive. So, what's that purchase giving you? Is it giving you more freelance jobs? I don't know. Okay, so here basically what I do is I eat into the overall forms a little bit, and just try and etch out the borders and the silhouettes. Then when I insert something, it might look a bit strange, and then I'll come back to the move brush to adjust it. So usually what I do is try and sculpt a bit of a skull first, and then interpret that skull on the character that I see. So he's got very strong cheekbones. It's similar to Harry's one, because obviously we're doing like a bit of a Balenciaga series. So they all have really hardcore cheekbones. He's obviously got a very defined chin as well. So I want to get that out early as well. So a common mistake I see people do is that they'll see like a square jaw. They'll try and interpret that squareness a bit like this. And the front silhouette of a square jaw is happening in 2 locations. So it's happening at the front and it's also happening at the back. So you can see 1, 2, but it tends to keep this this bowing and arching parabola shape. So whenever you're doing adjustments, just make sure you've got that nice sort of shape there. Do the same as last time with the Harry Potter character. I'll just basically put in some rough glasses and ear locations. Ears, so the top of the ears are aimed for the top of the brow, and then the bottom of the ears for the bottom of the nose. With older characters, you tend to see bigger ears because they continue to grow, and then obviously different people have different styles. So for this, I'm going to use the geometry I have to create the silhouette. Then I'll come back and refine it a bit later. At this point I basically re-dynamesh it and then completely smooth it back over to get rid of any forms of details. So while you're watching, what can sometimes be annoying, you might see something that's a little bit off. But when I'm looking at it, I'm looking at a different area. So sometimes I might build up the brow and take that to like a level, you know, like a 5 out of 10, whereas other places might be a 2 out of 10, and I'll come back later and do that. So I sort of jump around quite a bit when I'm sculpting. Like for example, I haven't even got a nose yet. I'm already doing the brow. I don't know why, but just leaving the nose out of it has always worked well for me. I think it makes it easier to work on the under sections around here. And then I can also move the base of the nose, which is quite hard to do if you've already got a nose there. This Walter character, he's got quite deep set eyes. So with deep set eyes, the skull is located in the same place. It just means that the brow is usually a bit bigger. So it's not that the eyes are deeper or further forwards, it's just like he's got a big brow. What's going to be really difficult, he's got a moustache as well, so we can't actually see what's going on. I've got a couple of references of the original character, Walter. Recently decided to set up and make my own character related base mesh. Just finished up a pair of hands and feet. However, I'm not sure if I should include the geo for nails or keep them separate. So, interestingly enough, in the background, I've also been making one similar. And that was one of the key questions I was asking, was whether I should include nails or not. So for game meshes, I'd suggest not including them, just because it's easier to add something than it is to take it away. So if you imagine you've got that base mesh with nails on it, and then suddenly the request comes in that you don't want the nails, it's going to be quite annoying to reconstruct that. That's my suggestion. Okay, now for the nose ridge, I just create the top of the bone and then try and assume what the look is with the character. The top of the nose bones are usually quite similar across characters. It's only when it gets to the tip, that's where all the skin and the cartilage changes quite a lot. Do you sometimes get dotted lines when you're trying to sculpt in ZBrush? What do you mean by the dotted lines? I can bring back the neck and it's not going to look nice, I guarantee you. There we go. Actually going to redo that, I don't like that, so delete that. So it was good for explaining, not good for how it looked. Oh, I see. So if you've got an issue, yeah, it could be that your brush settings or your stroke settings are different. So if you go into, I have mine up here, where they are in the menu. I believe it's stroke. Is it brush? Yeah, and also I've had them in my UI for so long. Here, so you can, under lazy mouse, whether this is activated or not, it could be that lazy mouse is on and the step is either too high. So every time it steps, it means there's a greater distance to when it applies a bit of brush stroke. So you can see that's how it's sort of like dotting. So it could be that you've got a very small lazy mouse radius on and the step is too high. So you can check that out. And then remember, anytime in the brushes, you can just go reset all brushes, and that brings everything back. Funny thing about the Balenciaga characters, they were massive shoulders. What we might need to do in a minute is get some reference for a hench guy, or a similar statue to him. Okay, so with this this clavicle bone, this bone that goes from right there to the corner, it's how you shrug your shoulders up and down. That's kind of like the mechanics with the muscles that are attached to there. From the top, there's a bit of a bow shape, like you would have in a bow and arrow. So this is the front of the bow, and these are going to come back and almost flick upwards. Now where that terminates, you've got quite a bit of a flat section, and that's where not a lot of muscle exists. So you can feel it if you put your finger on your shoulder there. That's the flat region. And then that flat region is going to lead up to around this area. That's going to create the meaty part of the back of your trap, or the muscle that actually brings that up. So that's a very short anatomy lesson on sort of like how to build the collarbone. So if at a point you find that you've sort of like created a muscle out of nothing, like here, and instead of dragging down more clay, you don't want to lose what you've already produced, you can just come to IMM brush and insert like a new shape. So IMM, you can insert, for example, like a capsule like this, and then we can use that as the basis for the upper arm. So I do a similar thing in a video on how to create the arm. So if you're interested, it's somewhere in the channel. That's how we start to approach it. It's just like break up into capsules and then do each individual muscle from that. So where does it stop? This is the problem. It's where do you cut the character off? Because if I keep on going, I'll end up making the entire body. So do you have any questions based on how I approach making characters like this? I look forward to seeing how you make the Balenciaga moustache. Yeah, so do I. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. Do you like working on stylized characters or realistic ones? I think I prefer realistic ones just because it's harder and not many people are doing it. Stylized is... I don't know, I like stylized, but I think a lot of people can do it. And I think I just enjoyed more realistic interpretation of like seeing something and then trying to interpret that in the sculpt. And I'm interested in like anatomy and things like that, so it's less apparent in stylized. With stylized, it's more about the brushes that you use and kind of having like one individual edge and letting that run the entire artwork. But yeah, realistic is it's just got a higher skill cap, so it's more rewarding for me personally. It's more chances to mess up as well. So, you know, if you make a mistake in stylized, you just say, oh, that's how it's meant to be, that's my style. But with sort of semi-realistic or in between, it's a little bit harder. Okay, let's try getting nose in here. Let's try something different. So with the nose, usually I sculpt it out, but I'm just going to add a new shape, 9mm. Never done it like this before, but you never know. Could be quite good. Could be effective. I guess one of the benefits of doing it like this is you can really get the initial shape first, which is awesome. So maybe I'll start using it like that. Tell you what, something I like about this as well, you can sort the connection to the head first before you actually start sculpting, which is quite cool. So for example, because he's an old character, he's got quite low fat body percentage and a dry fold that comes down from his nose to the sides of his mouth. So because this is already pre-masked, you can actually start to sort of sculpt that out initially and then cut in really deep like this. Useful brush for this, probably a pinch brush. Do you know what? I actually really like this process. I might use this in the future. It's kind of working out alright. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that there. So when people join it, it's gonna look very confusing. I'm gonna add the moustache before I do the lips. Just because it's such a big feature, and then also the glasses as well, because I want everything to be positioned before I start sculpting, because it might throw it all off, so it's kind of hard to track all that. So moustache, we're going to do it with we'll start from a sphere. Yeah. So the thing with the moustache is it's so iconic. As soon as the moustache comes, it's going to look exactly like him, isn't it? It's almost cheating. That's why all bold characters look the same. It's because their defining feature is that they're bold. I wish I could grow a moustache like this. So this looks like his bottom lip, but it's not. It's the mouth barrel I make to seat the lips. So I might just get rid of that before it throws people off. What we can do, we'll draw the mouth there and then bring it upwards towards the moustache. So that's his lip line, and I'm just gonna budge it up so it's underneath like this. And this is where we approach no man's land, because I can't see anything under there. Just have to guess. So I was thinking of asking you guys what videos you'd like to see in the future in terms of games development, like taking something from ZBrush all the way to a games engine. Thing is, I've got so many ideas and so many videos I can make. They're quite quick to make, but the only issue is the editing. So I have this massive backlog of videos that I've already made, but it's the amount of time it takes to edit, or not even edit, just like prepare. I guess is why lives are cool, because I can just talk straight. Let's do an imaginary lip. So the actor actually doesn't have that pronounced lips, they're quite flat. All that work covered up straight away by a moustache. Okay, let's fake some direction. Okay, so let's get some glasses in here. Just dump it all and let the viewers figure it out. That's kind of what I'm trying to do, actually. The most surprising thing actually is that like some of the best tips I have, or like some of the videos that save quite a lot of time, are the ones that haven't really been viewed that much. So YouTube is a difficult one because it's obviously a little bit sensational in areas. It doesn't necessarily the best stuff doesn't necessarily rise to the top, but some of my other videos do. And I'm like, oh, why did that go up? That's kind of strange. So here I'm just going to cut it out with a live boolean. Make sure that the second sphere I have is going to cut out of here, so I turn that to a minus. And then we've got the Dr. Egg, or whatever his name's glasses there. Ooh. So you see it's also cutting into the main character. You can press this little button here. It's like a downwards arrow. It just means that's going to be the start of the boolean, and then everything above it is not affected. So I see that as a common issue. Right now he's looking a bit like Gandhi, because Gandhi's got some or Gandhi round glasses. But I'm going to reshape these, right? So what sort of shape we've got? For reshaping this, I'll probably use one of the deformers. So under transformations, and then if you open up the gear under deformer, it gives you this cage, and that's really good for changing the shape of something overall. And you don't want to break. Like if I use the move tool here, it'd probably break the structure of the underlying asset. So I want to get the general shape first. If it warps anywhere, I'm just going to use the pinch brush to fix that. because this isn't a production piece, it's kind of like a more conceptual piece, so I'm not too fussed about getting things perfect. Yeah, I'll accept that, and now I'll go into the move brush just to adjust it. And this is similar to if you saw the hard surface techniques. It's the same stuff I use on that. So very rarely do I actually make something hard surface in Maya or Blender. I'll just do it in ZBrush, and I won't even use the Z modeler. I think it's kind of like a waste of time. Okay, suddenly he looks cool now. That's all it takes. Just put on some sunglasses, you look cool. So here you can see it's like quite a sharp angle. The easiest way to basically do that is get a pinch brush and brush in this direction, and then that's going to pinch it up from your desired perspective. Then you can just clean it up from your other angles like this, right? Just bring back the jaw there. Okay, what bit should I do next? Should I do the eyes next? Should I work on the ear? Should I dynamesh everything together? What do you reckon? So this might be a very hard one to explain, but I'm making, it looks like I'm making the eye, but I'm actually making and focusing on the bits around it. So to the viewer, it might look that that's kind of we're working on this, but I'm actually trying to figure out the shape of all the bones and the skins around that, so that when it comes to actually putting in the eye, I don't have to do too much work to fix it. So on the comment about stylized, actually, what I'll usually do is I'll inherently make something look a bit like stylized at first, and that's just to make sure that I've got all the pieces, and then I'll go back over it and refine it and sort of like polish up so it's closer. So basically, like along the way of the process, I am making a stylized version. So his head's getting a bit long. Sculpt the lids. Yeah, let's do it. Let's get some eyes in there. It's gonna be chaos if I try and reposition stuff. I like it. It's so the fun thing about sculpting is that every element you put in unlocks a different thing. So it unlocks a different area that looks a bit strange in comparison. So once we add the eyes, it's gonna we can change a lot of other things. So as you do that classic sort of like, you know, 1, 2, 3 from the center. So you've got one eye in the center, second eye, and then the third eye. So it's like a total of 5 for the width of the head. His eyes, I guess they're like green or hazel. I love this part, it looks so crazy. So for those that don't know, I'll basically get the eyeball, I'll then duplicate it. So what we've got here is one eyeball that has two sections to it. I'll then split it and split by mask points, but you've got to remember that you can only use it with something that has one set of subdivisions. So I can delete lower here, split mask points, and then what I'll do is I'll re-dynamesh that. And re-dynamesh this second half. Okay, then what you've got is basically three components, and you can either increase the scale of it with the slider, or you can come down to deformation and then use the inflate brush or the inflate tool. Just make sure we inflate the right one. Okay, once you've got that, you can basically put this in the center, and this is going to be used to open up the eyelids. It's going to look really strange at the start, but then we can use that as a shape guidance to make the shape of the eyelid. Just thicken that up a little bit. What White been smoking here, you know? He's had a good time. So what I'm doing here is basically getting a damn standard, and then I'll hold Alt, and that will create the eye line. And if you want to, you can go on the inside and make sort of like this tear duct. That can sometimes be useful. So all this is going to get connected back onto the main mesh. So it's going to look like Pac-Man to start with. Okay, now comes the horrible bit where we bring everything together. So what I'll do is position everything so it's wrapped around the eyes, right? So all the bones, all the muscles. And we might have to change the glasses as well. Okay, so the nice bit about this Especially when you get older characters, you'll have a bit of skin over here that folds over the eyes. And if we had connected that beforehand, it'd be very hard to make this section. And with Walter's character, he's got quite a tight, thin one. So we can use the pinch and then actually start to insert that form without having to worry about the eyelid getting destroyed. What's cool as well, you can also make space for the duct, which is sometimes useful. I'm also going to isolate this area just so it's a bit easier to move around. So something like that. Okay, so now what's going to happen is we're going to dynamesh this all together. We're going to position the eyelids underneath and then basically merge them all together. So if you go to merge and then merge down, so the eyelid's connected, and now we can dynamesh. Cool. Now just basically smooth everything away. Oh, I need to find a new music thing. Okay. So a lot of the nose, so my tips on the nose is basically a lot of it comes from the shape of the hole. So if you first get the hole quite solid, that's going to create the initial shape of the nose, and then you're going to construct everything else around it. So usually I get this leading line that comes over here and wraps back in and underneath, kind of like a hook. So from the front, it's got this shape. From the side, it's got your classic kind of like spiral and curl. And then from the bottom, we need to work on the bottom, but obviously the nose is going to taper off. So the reason the nose is so hard is because you have to work on every single side at the same time. So make sure that bottom's looking good. And also from the top as well, just making sure that these aren't too wide. Okay, so what sort of style of nose does he have? Let's have a look. So he's kind of like nostrils flaring. Nostril flare, it seems to be a common thing with Balenciaga. So who is still here with me? Who's come this far? I've just changed the light so it's a little bit closer to the reference. So I'll only do that towards the end, or closer to the end. Trick I do for the lips is like basically try and get the flat surface first, and then try my best to position the lip line, and then go with a magnified brush and then just go over that flat surface that I created. That's going to round out the lip. So just a bit like that. If you're doing this in production, the best thing to do is literally just create a character that has like the lower jaw and the upper jaw, maybe even like a mouth box, so you can actually physically make each of the lips. But again, this is concept stuff, so there are no rules. I think what I'll do in the future is actually have some pre-made ears, because remaking the ears every time, my god, how boring. But I guess you're good at making ears. We'll kind of do like the indication of it here. We won't do it crazy well. That'll do. Let's get these out a bit. Right, let's get a little bit of poly paint in there. Just to shade bits like the lips, for example. That's sometimes quite useful. Just get an indication there. Can sort of darken the eyes slightly as well for his skin shade. Get some eyebrows. I'll show another trick for eyebrows. So you could do an extraction. The only thing about an extraction is that you're left with a very thin piece of geometry, which is quite hard to use. So what I prefer to do is basically duplicate your main head. And so you've got two versions. You've got like an underlying version and a main version. And then with the underlying version, just select the eyebrow area as a mask. And you can get rid of the back end like that. And then I'm going to split by mask points. So split the mask points. And that's sort of cut off this eyebrow area. And you can delete the old piece. And then if you recolor this, so just fill it in with black, you then got two objects. So if you bring everything back from solo and then select the underlying object, move it back just a little bit, just like that. Oh, just so it's not showing. And then what it allows you to do is you can come in after with a normal standard brush. And then as you paint, it sort of brings out the underlying mesh, and then you can paint in some physical eyelashes, which is good because you can almost rub it away and then bring it back again. So if you combine that with Sculptris Pro, it can be quite good. You can get some quite detailed eyelashes. So yeah, it's like if you imagine if that was an extracted piece, it'd be very hard to make the individual hairs. But once you get the Sculptris Pro, you can almost draw each individual hair strand and eat it away and bring it back again. Okay, so he's got something like this. Then you just get the move tool and reshape it. His glasses are actually a lot lower, about here. He probably rotates as well, because otherwise they wouldn't fit to a human. Tell you what, I suspect if we divide this, it will actually turn into a bit more of a sphere or a cylinder. Smooth it as well. So, do you render your sculpts with Keyshot or Marmoset? I take screenshots with BPR render and publish as it is. I guess I'm lazy with the presentation. No, I don't. I don't really like Keyshot too much. I think if I had the option, I would choose Marmoset. I don't even like BPR. So I tell you. So usually, what I do if I want to take a mid screenshot, if you come to render and then just switch it to best momentarily, you kind of like a nice shaded, noisy version of it. Whereas the BPR, it puts in some quite harsh shadows. So if we did a BPR right now. This is why I don't like it. You have to find it in the menu. So click BPR. Kind of inserts all these shadows, so it's hard to see what's and they're really hard shadows. They're not exactly very soft. And they're quite hard to eliminate. You can't really put soft lights to fill that in. And then the only thing about Marmoset, the problem is that it's obviously real time, so you're gonna have to make a low poly and an unwrap of this. A workflow I've not tested out, which I want to try and test out, is basically see if I can chuck it straight into something like Unreal Engine, like use Nanite, and then just use the rendering out of that to preview it very quickly. Because then you don't have to make a low poly, you can just chuck it straight in as I'd like a decimated, or maybe it can even handle the full piece. Technique I use for the eyebrows is that I use extraction, and then it extracts with polygroups. I select only the front polygroups and delete the rest, and do the quick remesh and polish by features, then go, yeah, you could do that. But seeing this, I could try this one, techniques. Yeah, it's more versatile. I think it's just like at the early stages when you want to get an eyebrow shape, and you don't want just an eyebrow that has like this hard surface corner, which kind of throws you off a bit. At least with this, you can put in some very faint indications of an actual hair, like here and there, and that's enough for us to think that it's an actual eyebrow. Okay. So the moustache obviously has to spawn from the skin. So I'm making sure that it's actually connected to that section. Spawn, you know, grow. Such a like a gamer term, that. Okay, let's add a tank top at least, or some more construction down his torso. So I usually sculpt with this lighting setup. Sometimes helps me out quite a lot. I don't know why I didn't use it this time. Just maybe forgot. Okay. Cool. Catch you around. Thanks for joining. Hope you got some 1 or 2 bits from it. So I'm going to connect the neck and the body. Let's only really do the bits that are going to be seen from a screenshot. So it's around here. So his body structure, he's actually quite stocky. So I'm trying to interpret it. So he's actually not as Balenciaga as I thought. So we're gonna have to reduce this. That kind of stocky bull look actually comes from the back. So if you go on the back side and increase this section, it'll give that kind of like overarching Bane look almost. He's kind of scary. Okay, now. I'm building up muscle. I usually use either a clay tubes to give like a fiber direction, or just fill it in with like a normal clay brush. Okay, now we're going to do a tank top. So start with a very basic shape. It's hard when there are so many muscles on there, because if you draw out a tank top shape, it's basically going to come out quite wobbly. But there's a couple of things we can do to fix that. So I'll start with this. So yeah, we've not got much body to play with here, but if I make one connection there, at least when I extract it, it's got the structure for me to start making it. So it's the same technique as most, is just splitting it off and then deleting the excess. Once you've got that section, you can use Z-remesher, but the problem here is because it's so jagged, chances are the Z-remesher is going to pick that up. So if you look, it's actually thinking that the mesh is that kind of shape when we want it a lot smoother. So what you can do is if you go down to deformation and you can go polish, that's just going to fix up the edges a little bit. And then if you combine that with a Z-remesher with a lower target polygon count, hopefully it won't introduce those edges. And then if you press half and then just click that a couple of times, it gives you a bit more clean geometry. And then because there's less geometry here, it's smoothed out those bumps, and now we can start to just use this as the tank top base. So it doesn't matter if it starts to deform or the geometry gets weird, because you can just fix that after. Every time you do it, basically have Z-remesh handy and then press Z-remesher. Then it's going to give you more accurate geometry to the one you want. Okay, as this is black, I'm going to change the background to something like a more grey. Okay, with cloth you can use, you don't want to turn that into a Dynamesh or anything. You want to use something called dynamic subdiv, and then when dynamic subdiv's on, it's going to smooth it, but it's also going to give you the opportunity to give thickness. So this thickness, it's a preview, it's not actually the physical mesh. So when you come to edit it, or if you say you do a Z-remesh or any sort of changes, it's not going to adjust, or it's not going to affect the thickness of your cloth. So that in combination with Z-remesh is really handy for basically creating clothing. And that's pretty much how I do all my clothing and all my sci-fi pieces or metals, stuff like that. Okay, I think that is enough to get the point across. So I'm going to pose him and take a screenshot. Falling Down, what movie's that? Not heard of it. If so, I want to watch it. I'm going to move some of this just so it interprets better for a shot, so I can get more in. So here what I'll do is I'll just put details in where the screenshot is, so it looks like I've worked really hard on it. when in actual fact I'm just touching up the bits that are close by. Okay, what sort of pose are we gonna have for him? Okay, well, I'm gonna add the glasses bits because that's kind of throwing it off a bit. The office worker who goes crazy. Oh. Not heard of it. So, for posing, I'll probably just put all his head components in a folder. Make sure the ears are the same color. His moustache. It's really weird. I mean, like, so I sort of remember starting off with a sphere and then you kind of phase out for like however long we've been going, 2 hours or something. And then you wake up and there's a character. Don't really know how I got there. Give him that kind of look. In fact, I'll save it first. Let's put a tiny bit of asymmetry in. God. So I think with this, what I've kind of done is I put a slightly bit more of the original Walter White in, because it's not, the concept doesn't look exactly like him. It's on the same grounds, but I've kind of gone for like a little bit of an in-between, so you can recognize him a bit better, because otherwise it's just a bald guy with glasses and a tank top. How do you make the half moon squint he has? The reference has that half moon squint. Half moon squint, what's that? What, like closed eyelids? Or you mean sort of like pinched? Very cheap ways, you can just use the pinch tool. Then squints usually comes from the lower lid. And then their eyes usually square off a bit more. Sort of like that. Lift the cheek muscles because they're involved in a squint like this. Like that. Let's see what change that did. Yeah, he's looking a bit more squinty. It also brought the highlights out, which is quite cool. So his glasses go down a bit. Let's adjust those. But yeah, I think I'll leave it there, to be honest. I mean, I could spend quite a lot of time trying to match to that reference, but the point gets across. Yeah, you're right. In the reference, he looks young, but in the sculpt, he looks old. I tried to bring back a bit more of the character's called Walter White. Maybe this works, but my consideration was that he would be a bit too unrelatable there. So I've tried a little bit to bring a bit more of him back into it, if that makes sense. So he does look at, yeah, he looks a bit older, you know. If I want to make him younger, this be quite easy. In general, it would require a general smoothing of all the places. So you could add another. Basically, what you could do is you add another subdivision level. Then you would just smooth out any wobbly highlight or wobbly shadow that you see. In general, that makes people look younger. Okay, cool. I'm going to end it there. So thanks for joining to the end. Are there any final questions before I head off? Cool. All right. Well, thanks for joining and enjoy the rest of your Sundays. And I'll probably do the same thing next week where I maybe like a C3PO. I think that was a cool. So I can mix the hard surface and the organics together. But cool. Catch you around. I'll end it now. Bye, guys.